Have you ever struggled with all the physical loyalty and membership cards getting lost? But what if there's a way to achieve zero printing costs, zero plastic card, and zero frustrated customers? Today, we sit down with Brian Pham, the CEO and the founder of Litecard, and learn how they help business across retail, hospitality go completely digital, their global expansion, and why they believe the future of customer loyalty isn't just digital, it's sitting right in the customer pocket. Let's get started.
As a brand and a retailer, you will definitely have a problem in the next 10 or 20 years around where to spend your media to acquire and retain a customer. So we thought to ourselves, if we really wanted to make this powerful, we should make a platform that's made for agencies as well as these brand sort of groups. I think that everyone that's involved in your startup in some shape or form is looking for a way to take something from you or from the business. And that may not always be a bad thing. If you look at sort of the hyper technology trends across the world, you see that Australia has been a release point for a lot of US and UK based companies. I think there's very fine line between being an optimist and a realist. But for me, everything that we learned along the way shaped our business as we are today.
Would you rather lose your biggest customer or your best employee?
Oh, Jesus.
What one thing about early days of building Litecard that you secretly missed, and one thing you never want to relive?
Oh my goodness. One thing I wish I would never have to do within the business.
Welcome to Founder in Motion. I'm Daniel. I'll be your host today, and I'm happy to welcome Brian Pham, the founder of Litecard, to the show.
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with a little bit of introduction. So for those who don't know who you are, can you share a little bit of introduction about yourself and what Litecard is about?
So I'm Brian. I am a Vietnamese person born in Australia. And I grew up here as well, doing university mostly in Australia. And then after working a number of corporate jobs as well as consulting jobs, I decided to start my own venture called Litecard. And what Litecard is in a nutshell, we call it a wallet-led marketing platform. And wallet meaning Apple and Google Wallet. So you use that every day sort of for bank cards and boarding passes. And we found that it was an amazing opportunity for brands and retailers to use it as a media channel as well. It's definitely the first, I think as an entrepreneur, you probably have a lot of different ideas all the time. And then after getting enough data points, you sort of have a gut feeling. And I think a number of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I had that gut feeling with Litecard that this is going to be something I'm going to dedicate a big portion of my life to and potentially my life's work. So, yeah.
So can you walk us through how you build Litecard and how you landed your first sale with an agency?
So as a marketing platform, we try to sell to brands and retailers because we see that they have a lot of problems around media and marketing. So as a brand and a retailer now, it's tough to reach an end customer because if they send an SMS, you might think that it's spam. And many countries don't send SMS for marketing. And if you send an email, it doesn't go into your inbox anymore. It goes into your social or promotions inbox. And so as a consumer, you're bogged down every day with all of these different emails, SMSs, or you're asked to download an app. And if you think about other media channels like social media, YouTube, Google, Facebook, they're also becoming more expensive by design. And so we thought to ourselves, as a brand and a retailer, you will definitely have a problem in the next 10 or 20 years around where to spend your media to acquire and retain a customer. And if we sell to a brand and retailer, a lot of the times, maybe the brand and the retailers aren't even executing their own strategy. It's the agencies they work with, whether it's a media agency, marketing agency, commerce, Shopify, full digital service. There are so many different agencies and partners out there that serve the brands and retailers. So we thought to ourselves, if we really wanted to make this powerful, we should make a platform that's made for agencies as well as these brand sort of groups.
How do you land on your first sale that you try to pitch to an agency?
So I think after talking to so many different brands and retailers out there, we realized that even some of the leading brands that they think it's a great idea and they want to push the budget towards it, they made us work with the agencies that they work with anyway. And so for some of the agencies that we ended up working with, we realized that the agency thought it was a really good idea and they wanted to sell it to their clients as well. And we thought to ourselves, that's great. Like we just did with one sale, like another 10 sales. Yeah. So how can we create that as like a default, scenario? I think like our first real media agency that we started to sell with was when we started working with North Face. And so when North Face, we went live in Australia, they said, you have to work with our media agency in South Australia. That's an external agency. And then we started to implement with them and thought to ourselves, how can we make this process like out of 100 clicks, 10 clicks, and build the platform around that. And then that sort of shaped how we work with all the other agencies now as well. And just like understanding, what each agency needs and how they differ from each other. Some agencies are very technical and they like to do a lot of the integration themselves. Some agencies are very sort of media strategy consulting focused and they want to do mainly the execution and have the tools and not have to do any engineering. There are some agencies that want to do both. So I think just understanding that from having all those conversations after, working with the North Face, and then it moves on to all the other agencies as well, and then how that changes within each country as well, because every sort of country has their own attributes when doing business as well as running an agency. What we found was that solving the problem for sort of media saturation and let's call it like advertising and engagement in Australia was very similar to all the problems that we saw in Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Japan, Philippines, Indonesia, like a lot of European countries, US and UK as well. And what's like amazing about the Australian agency ecosystem is that once you work with an agency in Australia and it does really well, they usually talk with an agency in like Thailand or Singapore or Hong Kong, especially in the Shopify ecosystem, in the media ecosystem, because it's quite like a lot of them are global agencies as well with different headquarters, but a lot of them have alliances across the world. So like your strongest sort of brand and retailer agency for e-commerce in Australia will most likely know the ones in the US and UK and Singapore because they have people that have worked in similar companies move across, or they're just sort of like founders connecting. So yeah, that's helped us expand into different countries. And then just figuring out, what different pricing, because obviously a different country might have the same problem, but the value of the problem might change within each country. And then starting to study and understand those data points and then make the right decisions to sort of execute and expand in that region.
So as you start selling to more brand and retailers and agency during those early years, what were the most common objections you were facing? You mentioned about different technical. Some agencies prefer more technical like data, and some is more like front-facing.
I think in our early days, the biggest objections that we would face was that as a platform, providing a product into the mobile wallet and then using it for advertising, that at our beginning of our journey, there was too much sort of coding and technical integrations needed. And then as the product evolved and we started to work with more retailers and brands across the world, we just evolved it so that it required less technical integrations at all. To the point now where if you're L'Oreal or you're Mars or Jack Daniels, you could go to Chemist Warehouse or Dan Murphy's and buy 100,000 barcodes. You can put them into our platform, customize the whole user journey and experience, and then put that into your social media. So you could click on a social media ad, it would add it into your wallet, you can come and scan in Dan Murphy's immediately. That whole process on our platform now takes sort of 1 to 2 minutes, and you don't have to do any integrations. So it's just evolving it from that sort of previous cycles and iterations to a point now where it's powerful enough that a brand or retailer or agency can just do it fast and without coding. So our usual objections went from technical and security to now there's nothing really to worry about and you can do it yourself.
So when you talk about add it to your e-wallet on your mobile phone, so when you first create Litecard, are you building a own platform or you already think about integration with Google Wallet or Apple Pay?
Yeah, definitely the latter, because I'm a big fan of sort of studying the history of other platforms and how they evolved over time.
Yeah.
And what I found was that if you look at Microsoft Word, you look at Gmail, the main reason that they had such an amazing critical mass of users was because it was easy. It was easy to go into Gmail. You didn't have to log into Live, MSN, all these other random, like, not random, but, different email platforms with user experiences that weren't as fast and were like less cost effective, for example, and accessible. And I'm seeing the same thing now with mobile wallets. So if you think about like applications, if you go to JB Hi-Fi, for example, you have no idea how many points you have, how many vouchers you have, how to spend them, when they expire, how much you need to spend to get to the next tier, unless if they had an app, download an app, log in online, look through your email, look through your SMS. Like there's no other option as an end customer. And this app is actually really expensive to build and also manage. Like people don't understand how expensive it is to just manage the apps. And so it's like my customers are looking for a better way to experience my brand and I'm losing them because there is no better way. And so we're finding like the demand came after that sort of convergence of technology being disparate everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned like JB Hi-Fi, because like normally when I go to JB Hi-Fi and then they ask for like my mobile number, and I just gave it to them, but I don't know if they have any, if I have any point or anything.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to track it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like if you knew that, rather than spending $50 at the body shop front desk, maybe you spend $100, right, or $200. So there's that missed opportunity.
So with the international expansion, how do you decide which market to enter?
Yeah. So we did some pretty deep analytics across the whole world. I think like after 12 or 18 months in the market and just understanding which customers we serve and how we serve them, we broke them all into different data segments. So across like brand groups, consumer packaged goods, fast moving goods, slow moving goods, and all the different retail subsegments as well, fashion, grocery, pharmacy, and all the other different subsegments. And then we categorized that across the world and saw how many, grocery stores were in Central Europe compared to Western, North, South Europe, and then US and UK, and then Middle East, and Australia and Southeast Asia, and then North Asia. And so just started to really understand that Australia is such a small region in terms of like consumer brands as well as, your retailers that you've got globally. And then we started to study other things like how much is an SMS, how much is an email, how much is a push notification in each region. And then we sort of fed that into an algorithm and went like, this is a strong region that has potential because Google and Apple Wallet is available there and there are like users in the region already. And then we thought for ourselves like, is the Philippines or is Indonesia like a good target? Like, do we know people there? Do we have Shopify agency connections? And we did. So after speaking to those and sort of validating those points and continuously testing them, we did the same things we did in Australia that worked to bring a lot of value for these agencies and the brands and copied that as much as possible, taking into account like different things like price, sales cycles, buying habits of these enterprise customers. And then we used all of that to make a decision on where to go, how to go, how much resources to put there, who we should be talking to, who should we be training, how often, and sort of what resources they need.
So during the initial chat before, you mentioned like how Australia is a perfect testing ground for Litecard, like when you first start. So is there a reason why?
Yeah, I think if you look at sort of the hyper technology trends across the world, you see that Australia has been a release point for a lot of US and UK based companies. For example, Apple and Google Wallet, some of their latest releases after the US come to Australia first, like a majority of the time. And I think it's awesome because Australian people are very advanced and forward thinking in the way they think about mobile technology and shopping behaviors. To give an example, like in Christmas, Black Friday, like we still have a lot of people that just stay home and shop online, right? But if you look in Europe, like everyone goes into the store and that's because it's the culture, it's the tradition. And I think like because Australia is such a young country with all the different cultures, we're sort of mixing together and just using data to find what's best for everyone. And so in Australia, we see that in terms of like point of sale companies, there are 30 or 40, 50 in the market, where in the US, there might be less than 10, but they have 10 times the amount of population we have. And so it's a very crowded market in Australia, especially for marketing platforms, fintech, new innovation. And so it's a lot of people trying to sell the same thing. So if you can come out on top of a lot of people trying to sell similar things, then most likely, from a data perspective, you have a strong chance across the rest of the world as well, is our hypothesis.
Yeah. I find that there's a lot of international brand try to come into Australia and kind of fail. So I think if you're able to do it in Australia, then you're definitely able to expand to around the world. I heard about the recent news that you expand to Europe with the first office in Amsterdam. Would there be any challenge when you go into Europe market? Is there any different compared to the other?
Yeah, definitely. So our regional director there starts 1 hour after we finish. So that's a big one. But I think, look, Europe has been an amazing country always because such rich culture. There's a lot of people in the region as well. So high sort of economic variables for us to understand. But the reason why we went into the European market is because we had partners and customers there already. And because the region is so large, it was hard for us to sort of, speak the same language as all the different agencies inside the Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany, Spain, Italy, and so on and so forth. So we found that it was best to have a person that was on the ground there. And I think, very similarly as well, we're probably going to see more clients in the UK and US and even Middle East. But I think, with all experiments, it's one variable at a time and you sort of measure it and understand it.
Was there any markets you thought would be a perfect fit, but turned out to be way harder than you expected?
I think I have to be careful, but I think it's sort of like a pretty good story. We looked at the Philippines for a while, and everyone told us that it was a great market to go into because it was very rich of multiple cultures as well, and the shopping habits of people in the Philippines are very similar to the shopping habits of people in America. And what that meant was that there are a lot of coupons, there are a lot of sort of digital transformations. People were trying to shop more, go into shopping centers. Brands were trying to expand. It was a great time. But we figured out that we didn't know where to start. Somewhere in our network, someone introduced us to a brand family within the Philippines, and they owned the distribution rights for over 100 brands in the Philippines. And they also have their own brands and shopping centers and all these different businesses. And they also have their own marketing agency. So they have a marketing agency that sells to the brand, and we thought to ourselves, let's form an alliance. And they saw, the potential immediately and became a partner in the region. So, I think we're glad that we keep an open mind and we're lucky enough to still be agile to make these decisions and, dedicate our resources towards supporting new developing markets outside of Australia for our business. So, yeah.
What one thing about early days of building Litecard that you secretly missed, and one thing you never want to relive?
Oh my goodness. I think I secretly miss not needing to do so much work. I think at the very beginning, it was so fun to just sit there and go how crazy could we dream? And, what sort of amazing products could we build? And who could we sell it to? And I think just the early days of learning how to crawl and walk was so enjoyable because when you fell down, you didn't really think about the consequences. But now it's we have multiple publicly listed companies in so many countries relying on our platform in the next, 6 to 12 months. We sit there and go, maybe we need to dedicate our resources to support that. And so you don't have that fun and excitement as much anymore. It's still there. And I think strategically, that's why we'll have sort of retreats with the leadership team every 6 months or 12 months to try and stay 24 months ahead and do these enjoyable things. One thing I wish I would never have to do within the business, I think it's the same with everything, right? It's everyone wants to cook, no one wants to wash the dishes. So there's all these sort of financial and legal reports all the time and investor reports that you have to continuously do, which I enjoy because it keeps us healthy as a business. But it's not something I enjoy nearly as much as building, going out there and building the brand even and the strategy. So, yeah.
So with the current technology trend, with the AI, it's everywhere now. How do you see it shaking up the retail media, especially when it comes to keeping the customer engaged?
I think AI revolves a lot around data, and it's about how much you can gather data from a customer has been what's influenced us the most. So for example, there will be many brands out there like L'Oreal that run a promotion and have no idea who's seen the promotion and what their customer demographic is. So our platform allows them to, click on a promotion and then fill out their details and then get an offer. And these details are so important in understanding the customer behavior, because the brand would have no idea when Daniel's looked at the advertisement, when he's gone in store, how much time in between, and then like where he's going to purchase, and then the ability to repurchase him after. And understanding these buying habits allow for their marketing arm of a business or retailer or even like an agency to make the best decisions in terms of delivering media to where and to who. But in terms of our business, like we look at AI in a lot of different ways as well. Our whole like customer onboarding journey is like AI driven. So if you're a partner, you sign up with Litecard, you sort of like any question you would ever have, the AI will be able to answer it. And even things in the future where it's like, it might take 120 seconds now to create an end-to-end brand experience, but like what if it took 3 seconds in one click instead of like 20 clicks, right? And so using AI to speed up these things and like even experiment and explore them are some things that we're always looking to do.
So you already mentioned that you using the AI chatbot for the onboarding. Are you able to consider any other AI technology to your product at the moment?
There's a lot of AI data visualization things out there as well. And I think it's like, as a brand, you want to see how many people interact with this new like channel from media. And if you think about like Salesforce, right, and HubSpot and MailChimp, the generations of personalized email and SMS have created the national brands and retailers we have today in every country. It's been their strategy to really engage a customer and create that, they buy for the first time and they continue to buy all the time. And now what we're seeing is because SMS and email are saturating, this is the new generation of sort of personalized wallet or personalized mobile. And we're trying to continuously enable that. And so if we can create better customer experiences through there, we want to be able to track, measure, and display the data in a way that's going to be useful to the end customer. And so what we're looking at is like, how can the definition of useful for an end customer evolve? And we're continuously, training data to do that, asking customers like, is this useful information? Like, is this how you wanted your campaign to be? If not, how can we improve that experience? And then continuously feeding that back into our business and creating, some sort of algorithm that does that properly.
So you mentioned you live in many places before, like Japan, Australia, and work across many global markets. What is the best place to start a business in 2025 and why?
In 2025, the best place to start a business?
Yeah.
If I was to do it all again, Australia is a close second, to be honest. But from what I've seen across the world, it seems like Silicon Valley and the closest you are to America is generally like you'll go furthest the fastest is what I've seen. So yeah, that's where I would.
If you're able to start Litecard again, was there any lesson or way that you want to change to make it to where it is now today?
I think there's very like fine line between being an optimist and a realist. But for me, everything that we learned along the way shaped our business as we are today. And we wouldn't have understood how obvious a lot of these opportunities were unless we figured out how difficult the other opportunities were. And so if I was to do it all again, I would decide and study the data faster. I definitely, as most founders do, get excited about the technology and try and figure out the data after and make, pragmatic decisions after they get excited. But I think if I was to do it again, I would bring that back as early as possible and go, okay, this is a really cool technology, but in terms of money dollar value, where am I solving a problem? How big is the problem? Can it be bigger? And is it a global problem or not? And I think if I just ask myself those questions at the very beginning of the journey, maybe I would have sped it up 2-3 times.
What is the best advice that you ever heard?
So I spoke to an executive from Apple maybe like a year ago. And he was awesome. Like he helped us build inside the Apple ecosystem, introduced us to the right people and their culture, which is amazing. And then we finally got on a call after speaking sort of on email and LinkedIn for like 6 or 12 months. and he said something that stuck to me. And I asked him if you have any advice for any startups and ventures out there from all your decades in the industry, what advice would you give them? And he didn't give me anything around like data and science and anything. He just told me one thing. He said, never go to sleep curious. He said, anything that you ever think of, just try and figure it out. Like, don't go to sleep curious. Don't, sacrifice sleep for that.
Yeah.
And it stuck to me. Like, I thought to myself, like, I don't go to sleep curious. And I think, building Litecard, having the first idea was when I was nodding off, going to sleep. And I was like, this is a really good idea. Maybe I want to write it down, and studied it a bit more. And I did study it a bit more, and it became eventually a full-time job like a year or two after, and that's it.
That's a really good advice. Sometimes I get really overthinking, and then it's like spend the whole night, can't sleep, and then just think about all the potential or all the outcome. But like, it's true that, sometimes you really need to just stop, think about those, and then just start doing it. Yeah. What is something you didn't pay enough attention to early on and learn the hard way?
Oof.
Take your time thinking
No,
about
this one's a big one for me. Something I learned the hard way. I think that everyone that's involved in your startup, in some shape or form, is looking for a way to take something from you or from the business. And that may not always be a bad thing, but it's a thing, because they want to spend time and you want to spend time. And I think when a lot of people aren't conscious of that exchange, it becomes difficult. When you work with people from a startup perspective, not to burden down all relationships and make them transactional, but you really have to go like, is this person right for the job? Have they done the exact same thing before? And will working with our business and bringing them in be better for them or worse for them, and why? And then like from there map like, okay, well, if I'm going to potentially help them earn more money or learn more, like, is that realistic or not within our business? And like, if it's not, then you sort of have to go, well, then why am I doing this? And it's the same whether the person is like a salesperson, an engineer, HR, legal, board member, investor even, It's like, as an investor, they're investing into you and your business. It's like, well, why would you do that? But like having to then question that and understanding, okay, why do they invest? Like, do they like it? Do they have some sort of like method or ethos? Do you fit that method? And then like working with them to go through, the relationship and sales cycle essentially to create like a better, working relationship is something that I wish I paid a lot more attention to in the early stages. But again, definitely wouldn't have been able to make those decisions and, respect other people's time as well as my time, unless, you make those mistakes.
So before I'm wrapping up the podcast, I have a few rapid fire questions.
Go for it.
Yeah, just have a bunch of questions and you can just answer it as quick as possible.
Go for it.
So first one is, would you rather have a rockstar team with a mad product or an amazing product with an average team?
Rockstar team.
Rockstar team. Would you rather scale fast but burn through cash or grow slow but stay profitable?
Fast through cash.
Would you rather lose your biggest customer or your best employee?
Oh, Jesus. Depends, but right now, biggest customer.
You definitely value your employee much more.
It's a team, it's a family.
Yeah, it's a team effort. Thank you for coming on the show, Brian. I'm wishing you good luck with your venture in the future, and definitely looking forward for more news from Litecard.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap. If you like this episode, please hit the subscribe button. It helps us bring on more awesome guests, level up production, and drop new series you'll want to watch. See you in 2 weeks.